through the Nordost series with the Heimdall, the Frey, the Tyr, through to cables like the Valhalla. Simply, the speaker cable will get wider. I just thought you were a nice guy. And you can borrow a distribution block. I mean, it's a problem the world over. It doesn't matter where you live, but in terms of speakers and people moving house or changing their decor, a speaker they previously had in their system for 5, 6, 10 years, suddenly they've moved or what have you, and they can't get on with it in the new locale, and they're trying to, often the plaster, if you like, is trying to move the speaker out from the wall, if you like, to try and counter that. And that's where we've always been found to be a solution, if you like, for that issue.
Hi there, it's Alan from Loud Clear Glasgow, and I'm delighted to be joined by Alex Brady from the Nordost Corporation. He's one of the international product trainers.
This is true.
So yeah, wondering if you could perhaps give us maybe an introduction to Nordost, a little bit of an idea of what you're about and where you're coming from.
Sure. Well, it's very nice to be here almost 25 years after my first visit to you, to the week, I think. So happy silver anniversary.
Thank you.
Nordost was formed in 1991 by Joe Reynolds, who's an Irishman who moved to America in the 1980s. It's always good to mark that out at the start of talking about Nordost, because with the name Nordost, people and some of the guys who've worked for the company down the years, they've thought it might be a Scandinavian company. Nordost in all Scandinavian languages simply means northeast. And if you actually look at the Nordost logo on the O, it's pointing northeast, the arrow. And that is basically to reflect where Nordost is based in the northeast of America, in Massachusetts, just outside Boston.
Okay, great, excellent.
And Joe's always had a fascination with Nordic religion, if you like, and that's been reflected in the model names down the years of Frey, Tyr, Odin, Valhalla, etc. So it's given all the ranges a firm definition, if you like, and along with the visual impact that the products have had down the years. We began with cables like the Flatline Gold in the 1990s. I was a dealer at the time for Nordost, and they visually were immediately very arresting from other speaker cable on the market that we sold. Initially very convenient for people because of how flat they were for going under carpets and what have you.
And that kind of theme has really continued to
this day. That's right. Well, we've got a Valhalla speaker cable there. And I think it's great that Nordost has a strong visual identity to its products. And what I mean by that is that you could look at a Nordost speaker cable. You might not know which model it is, but you'll know it's a Nordost speaker cable. But that's not just for looks or for fashion. That's for purpose, for performance reasons. And one of the things, the key element really, that a Nordost speaker cable has always been flat, is to minimise capacitance, if you like, with the speaker cable. So what happens is you go up our range from, say, a white lightning speaker cable in the Life series, through the North series with the Heimdall, the Frey, the Tyr, through to cables like the Valhalla. Simply, the speaker cable will get wider, and basically we pay more attention to the amount of conductors, the gauge of the conductors, and the spacing between the conductors. So that is why you'll see the cable simply get wider. But we always keep it in 2 dimensions rather than 3. It's if you sort of stack the cable on top of each other, the conductors, the cores, that's where the capacitance can rise. Okay. So any Nordost speaker cable can be up to sort of 5 times lower in capacitance than other makes of speaker cable, which are more hose pipe in construction. Right. Okay. And that has practical as well as performance benefits. You most often see that in terms of the bass, if you like, and the speaker being better managed, if you like. So it can give you more freedom of placement of the speaker as well, positioning of the speaker. Quite often, if someone's auditioning a Nordost speaker cable in their system on home loan for the first time over a weekend, you'll obviously, for the sake of a fair A/B comparison, you'll want to put the speaker in the speaker cable in the same place as where the speaker hitherto was when you're swapping over. But quite often you can find yourself gaining easily a foot or even 18 inches, depending on the size of room, of freedom of placement towards the wall than you previously were unable to have. And we've got some case studies of photos of that, and it's really, really normal. So the key thing is to remind people not just to keep the speaker in the same position that they've always had.
Okay. And you put that down to just improve bass control primarily?
Yeah, texture, definition. It often could be like the upper bass, where I mean, it's a problem the world over. It doesn't matter where you live. But in terms of speakers and people moving house or changing their decor, a speaker they previously had in their system for 5, 6, 10 years, suddenly they've moved or what have you, and they can't get on with it in the new locale, and they're trying to, often the plaster, if you like, is trying to move the speaker out from the wall, if you like, to try and counter that. And that's where we've always been found to be a solution, if you like, for that issue.
Okay.
So practical as well as performance benefits with Nordost. But that's why, if you like, we've often asked why have your cables always been flat, and in a digestible nutshell, that's why.
Okay, interesting. Okay. So as well as speaker cables, interconnects from Nordost as well. Anything particularly unique about the range of interconnects?
What I was going to say really was that the key thing, I suppose, that we always say, and I think where we stand apart from other cable manufacturers, is the power cords, if you like. Joe Reynolds was the first to espouse the importance of the power cord in the system as being the most important cable in the system, rather than the interconnect or the speaker cable.
Okay.
And we proved that over the last 25 years or more, doing not just trade shows, but we probably do more dealer events than most manufacturers, because we're passionate about things being compared and auditioned and experienced, if you like. And we've got a really coherent range of power cords. There's 6 or 7 in the range there.
And why do you think power cords make such a big difference? Why should that be the priority?
Well, it's the first thing the system sees. Rubbish in, rubbish out was mentioned by other people,
by many
people in the 70s and so on. But it's important to give the speaker a clean AC line supply.
Okay.
And so the thing that we often see the most of demonstrated or borrowed on home demos over the weekend is power cords, and quite often it might be 2 or 3 from our product portfolio, because curiosity can play a key there.
Okay.
It's also the area of the system that experience tends to illustrate where people have not addressed that part of the system.
Okay.
It's quite normal that people have paid attention to their interconnects and their speaker cable, whether it's budget, mid or higher end systems. But that stock cable can still be sitting in the back of some quite esoteric amplification or sources.
So how would a Nordost power cable differ then from the one that you get kind of free in the box? What are the factors that affect it?
Yeah, so we have a, if you like, a reputation for high-end cables from the likes of Valhalla and O2, but really we can. A real-world solution is there at £250 in the form of our brand new Purple Flare IEC, which will lift the performance of any product.
And how would that differ from the one in the box?
The Life Series cables are multi-strand, but they all use our monofilament FEP. So that's a high-graded Teflon.
Okay.
So 80% of the conductor is in air, which in air is the best dielectric.
Okay.
This is a proprietary technology to Nordost, but as you go up through the range to, say, our tier power cords and above, like Valhalla as well, it goes to dual monofilament, which increases that air dielectric to 85%. And as I say, air is the best insulator of the conductor.
Okay.
So where I was going with that, if you like, is I think it's one of the most overlooked areas of all of audio. And what I mean by that is, if you look at the magazines, there's this rule of thumb, if you like, the 10% on the system.
Yeah.
That's been
10% of your system value should be on cables and accessories.
Yeah. I mean, that's been a rule of thumb for 30 years or so, as long as you and I have been in this. I don't know who it was who originally dreamt it up. But the funny thing about that was only ever really referring to the interconnects and the speaker cable, if you remember back.
Of course, yeah.
It wasn't even accounting for a power cord in the mix. And to push that point further about how the power cord can be overlooked, sometimes you can have magazines who are doing, and I hasten to add that not all hi-fi magazines, but you can have hi-fi magazines where they're doing a loom review where they want to get different manufacturers' cable looms in. But their idea of a loom review is still an interconnect and a speaker cable, not the power cord.
Okay.
Similarly, if we're doing hi-fi shows, and we love helping out colleagues and friends in the trade with systems and cable looms, did that very successfully recently at Munich, where we helped the likes of Moon, Rido, D'Agostino, Wilson,
Wow. Okay.
Hegel, DCS. So some noteworthy
Some big
brands
hitters there as well, yeah.
many of whom we've worked with for years. But when I first joined Nordost 8 years ago, I was getting I wanted to raise the profile of being used more in UK shows. And so I get friends in the trade from other companies saying, Alex, can I borrow some cable for Bristol? Can I borrow some interconnects and some speaker cable?
I think we've been been those soldiers.
And well, yeah, and they go, yeah, borrow some interconnects and some speaker cable. I go, no. And they go, oh, Alex thought you were a nice guy. And I went, you can borrow a distribution block, some power cords, some internets and some speaker cable. And then they're like, oh, brilliant. Yeah.
Okay.
But the point of that is that sometimes you've even got their own manufacturer not realising how to get the most out of their own products. Sure. And that's where the importance of a proper independent dealer like yourselves is vital. And the sort of thing there with the power cords is, these aren't the things that you'll in this demonstration room here, that they're what you'll lend to your clients over a long weekend. Yeah, there's no substitute for them auditioning the cable in their own system, in their own home, their own listening room, on their own music in their own time. You know, those key facts, if you like. But also, it gives them the opportunity of doing an all-rounded demonstration. The most fun demonstrations I've ever done in my life have been while I've been at Nordost, but quite often it's been when you've deconstructed the system. Because sometimes you notice it more when the performance is lost than when it's gained. And so quite often if we're doing a Nordost event, we'll go back to that stock cable at the end of the demonstration. And some people might think it's strange to end on a low note, but it actually has more impact in terms of you notice it more when it's gone.
Interesting, excellent. Okay, Alex, that was great. Thanks a lot for that insight. Thank you.
Cheers.
Hi there, it's Alan here from Loud Clear Glasgow. Loud Clear is Scotland's premier hi-fi and home cinema retailer and installer. The purpose of this channel is to give you a little bit of insight into some of the behind the scenes of the hi-fi industry. We're interviewing some techs, some salespeople, and we're trying to find out some really interesting information about some of the brands we know and love. If you think this is the kind of thing that might be of interest to you, please like and subscribe.